Welcome to the ClearLine Group's e-learning session for the Hyperion Center of Excellence. This session will have a brief introduction followed by a presentation that covers what a Center of Excellence is and its benefits. We will also review some critical success factors, a simple roadmap for creating a CoE, and some real-world examples along with next steps. I'd like to begin by introducing myself. My name is Steve Light. I'm a director in ClearLine's Hyperion practice. I've got about 17 years experience with Hyperion products. I started on SBase 3 and I've been certified on every version of SBase since version 4. I've also used Hyperion Planning, WA, and financial reports along with a number of other products. I'm a frequent speaker at different conventions and user groups, and I've also worked across a variety of different industries. The ClearLine Group is a boutique consulting company based out of Chicago. It specializes in EPM. Our consultants have a long history of working with Oracle's Hyperion products, and most of them have worked together for well over 12 years. Many of our consultants are also certified on the various Hyperion products. ClearLine provides its customers with a wide variety of services, ranging from initial assessments and roadmaps to full implementations and production support. We can also review and optimize existing applications or act as mentors to help improve your staff skills. So what is a Center of Excellence? As you can see by this screen, there's a great variety of definitions for a CoE. These are a couple that I found on the internet, and most of them really sound great in presentations or on white papers, but they really don't tell you a lot about what a CoE should be. Here's an example of a definition that I thought was pretty good. It says that a Center of Excellence refers to a group that provides leadership, best practices, research, support, and training for a focus area. In our case, this focus area would be Hyperion, but it could be a business concept or a skill like project management. Also, in our case, we're really looking at a Center of Excellence as an internal organization, not an external organization, but it could be either one. If it is an internal organization, it could be an informal group of people, a department, or a formal team. Now that we know what a CoE is, we can start looking at exactly what a CoE is going to do. It's basically going to function by bringing together a cross-functional group of experts to create a centralized knowledge base to support your Hyperion applications. This group is going to promote communication between other groups and help standardize all of your applications to increase reusability of components and to improve your data quality and overall functionality. There are a number of reasons why you may want a Hyperion CoE in your organization. Probably the most important one is to stop many of the common pain points that you may already be experiencing. These include things like constantly reinventing the wheel, having those silos of development and administration where you end up having duplicate work streams and poor communication, inconsistent data and master data, and inconsistent reporting. You also want to be able to stop those competing priorities and to alleviate any issues you may have with licensing, especially with your infrastructure and software versions. In addition to stopping many of the common pain points, a Hyperion Center of Excellence can also provide numerous benefits that you might not currently be receiving. Among these are reduced cost, increase in development speed, concentrated and streamlined operations, and improved overall quality control. It will also help reduce risk, stop inconsistencies between applications, and provide a tighter alignment with your overall strategy. It's really going to help a lot with improving communications and change management, which will in turn reduce frustration and disorganization. It does this by providing ownership. Now, I said it's going to stop inconsistencies, but I think this is a very important point that we need to look at a little bit more. I'm talking about inconsistencies both in the end user experience and the technical look and feel. The reason it's important for end users is once you have end users used to a particular application, if all of your other applications work the same, they're going to be able to seamlessly move to other applications and need less training. On the technical side, it's going to improve support and maintenance because they're all going to be working the same in the back end. So you're not going to constantly have to relearn the application's code to work on it. A Center of Excellence will only provide benefits if it is properly built, and the foundation of all good CoEs are the people. These people are the experts from various parts of the company that are being brought together to support the business, the data, and the Hyperion tools. The ClearLine group has identified 5 pillars that are built on this foundation. These include culture, community, strategy, governance, and process. Understanding the company's culture is key. Every company has a distinctive culture, and the CoE must fit into it. There are no plug-and-play solutions when it comes to the CoE. The Center of Excellence will be a cross-functional team, and it will need a strong sense of community with an enterprise-wide focus to support collaboration and shared ideas. It will also need to support the company's business goals and technical strategy. Governance is how standards are defined and enforced. It is also what most people think of when they're describing a CoE, and it is a very important component. It is also the first pillar that can be easily documented and measured. Unfortunately, it is often misunderstood, which causes the CoE to be seen as nothing more than an audit group. This is actually a big issue. When it's seen as just an audit group, your CoE is going to fail to achieve all of its goals. Process is just the implementation of the standards that were developed during governance. It is based on the best practices and the methodology that your organization is using. The ultimate goal of a Hyperion Center of Excellence is continual improvement for both the applications it oversees and for the organization itself. It's important to remember that business, technology, and staff will always change over time, so the CoE must stay flexible. Here are some specific examples on what your Center of Excellence will do on a day-to-day basis. In addition to always trying to maintain its expertise and strive for continuous improvement, it's going to create and maintain standards. It's also going to train and mentor both the business users and the IT department, and it's going to work on maintaining a repository for reusable components, documentation, best practices, and a variety of training materials. Those tasks will need to be completed by a variety of people within the CoE, and there will also need to be coordination with other functional areas. Some of the key roles in the CoE are going to be the executive sponsors and the subject matter experts, but you're also going to have other people working within the CoE, such as business analysts, project managers, a variety of Hyperion architects, developers, and support staff, along with trainers and testers. You're also going to work with areas outside of the CoE, like the IT department, specifically with DBAs, master data team, maybe web teams, IT support, and with all the regular functional areas like finance and sales and marketing. It's a good idea to have an understanding of some of the critical success factors before you move forward with the creation of your CoE. This will allow you to create a more accurate roadmap for its formation. For example, the Center of Excellence must fit into the company culture to be successful. It also cannot allow itself to be viewed as just an audit group. It's going to need an executive sponsor that's actively engaged, but it also can't allow any individual business unit to dominate its direction or goals. The CoE should take ownership of only appropriate items. For instance, you may be in a company with a strong master data group. You won't want to compete with them for ownership of master data. You should only be a consumer of their hierarchies. You could also be in a company that doesn't have a master data team, in which case you will need to own all of the master data coming into your Hyperion applications. Your Center of Excellence will also need to be able to enforce quality control and stop poorly defined projects from even started. It should also be an advocate of strong project management, and you will need a fully trained Hyperion staff to run your CoE. Creating a Hyperion Center of Excellence is similar to creating a Hyperion application. You'll go through all the same phases of requirements, design, build, and implementation. One of the keys will be to start small and early as possible, and then to strive for continuous improvement because you're going to grow and change over time, and you should only add services when you can support them. You don't want to try and do everything in one big bang. The first step in any roadmap is to complete an assessment. This is a business case to justify the need for a Hyperion CoE. You will need to review and document all of your current issues, along with the pros and cons of creating the Center of Excellence. You will also need to understand your company's current organization and gauge the company culture for how the CoE will best fit in. The requirements phase is where you answer the question, what is the CoE going to do? You will need to do a detailed review of the existing Hyperion environment, processes, methodology, and applications. You should also identify opportunities, benefits, and challenges based on those requirements, along with the goals, tasks, and roles to achieve them. Remember, the CoE is not a plug-and-play operation. It will need to be customized to fit your company and its needs. The design phase will describe how the CoE is going to work. This is where you will define the scope, responsibility, and authority of the group, along with a detailed description of the roles and goals. You will also need to determine the exact relationship between the CoE and other groups in your organization, and complete a complete gap analysis. Building the CoE will be a little different than normal Hyperion project work. This is because you're creating an organization and not an application. You'll be focusing on detailed documentation instead of doing hands-on technical work. You'll need to create a solid mission statement along with all the standards for all types of Hyperion work, including pre-project approvals, project management, technical guidelines, training, and post-production support. You'll also need to recruit the CoE's actual team members. Implementation is where you roll out the Center of Excellence to the rest of the company. The formal assignment of people, money, space, time, and tools should be completed. I would recommend that you have a formal kickoff for the CoE and that you market its services to the rest of the organization. Please remember that you can't plan everything in advance. The rollout of the CoE is a starting point, not a finish line. As I said earlier, continuous improvement is the ultimate goal of a Center of Excellence. The CoE will need to continue to grow and change over time. You should build and maintain a supporting culture for new ideas and innovation. The CoE simply cannot be forced. You'll need to allow it to develop naturally by creating these opportunities for open dialogue. You'll also need to remember to maintain the group's flexibility. This will help the CoE be seen as a benefit to the company instead of a roadblock. The following section contains a number of real-world samples from a couple of CoEs that I actually worked on. Here's an example of a Hyperion CoE mission statement that I really like. It plainly states that the Center of Excellence will enforce standards for new project approval, project development, and for production support. It also clearly explains that its goal is to support both business needs and IS standards. This company's standard for actual source data is a great example of a strict rule that they would not break. They wanted to ensure absolute data integrity on actual data and would rather not have the application built than build it with questionable data. The same company's standard for master data was a little bit more flexible. This is because their master data team was seen as a custodian of the master data and not its owner. This situation unfortunately led to some inconsistent and even incomplete member names and hierarchies. Their CoE resolved this issue by being flexible and taking partial ownership of the situation. They enforced the master data team's standards as a default starting point with a fallback position of using the source system as a guideline for solving conflicts. They also enforced their own standards for items that were not in the master data or the source system so that they can ensure consistent hierarchies and member names across all of their Hyperion applications. The new project approval process can be extremely important. This group felt that they needed to set appropriate expectations with guidelines for their new projects. They would review the new project requests for standards, feasibility, and enterprise support. This helps to ensure that the project was technically possible while still fitting the business need. It also stops development teams from painting themselves into a corner during the application's design and build phases. Projects that did not make the cut could be resubmitted, built in a different, more appropriate technology, not built at all, or built in a departmental application that was supported by but not owned by the Hyperion CoE. Departmental applications were not encouraged and did need special approval to be built. The decision-making process should be clearly documented. This example shows a simple flow for deciding whether an S-based cube should be built in aggregate storage or block storage. This may seem unnecessary since it should be second nature to most Hyperion developers, but it can still help pass knowledge along to new CoE members who may not have as much Hyperion experience. It's also very important to be able to explain your decisions to groups outside of the team. Some organizations create detailed development diagrams. These help guide the project through its approval. It will also direct the project through all of its phases to meet appropriate project management guidelines by following CoE standards and processes. It even includes information on training requirements, production support, service level agreements, and help desk standards. Standardized checklists can help guide the team through all phases of a project, including its initial approval. This sample is for a Hyperion planning application or an S-based block storage cube. It's used for technical sign-off of individual object groups at the end of requirements, design, and build phases. The first column is the actual object group. This is followed by a second column that provides the details on the standard. The next column shows whether the standard is required or just recommended. This is followed by a go, no-go checklist for each phase. If an item is required, then the project cannot go forward until the standard is met. However, some items are only recommended. The project can move forward with the appropriate manager's signature. Here is another example of a standardized checklist. This sample is for required project documentation. It shows the phase of the project that each document is required for and the type of document it is. This is followed by a link to the appropriate document template and a column for the development team to post a link for their final document. It also uses the same type of go, no-go approval with sign-off for each document. Most CoEs try to enforce some type of scripting standards to support a common technical look and feel across all of their applications. This will improve maintenance and allow for reusable components across different applications. It also helps to use the same general scripting style. This will allow you to ramp up new people faster and stop you from having to reverse engineer similar calculations when supporting multiple applications. All Hyperion projects use some form of testing, but the Hyperion CoE will emphasize the use of standardized testing processes. The goal is to use the same type of test scripts and logs for all of your projects. This will improve communication within your team and with the business. We can take this a little farther by using a standardized testing format for data calculation and security testing. It starts in unit testing and is usually completed in Excel with SmartView. The unit testing spreadsheets can be built out for complete system tests and should be reusable for the individual application. Common formatting will also aid in clear communication with your users. This is especially true when they have used the format on prior projects. These spreadsheets should also be kept as a record and for possible reuse during testing of future enhancements. Here is an example of a 3-tab testing workbook that can be used for unit testing business rules. It can also be built out to support full system testing. The first tab retrieves all the variables and the result of the business rule. The second one recreates the formula in Excel, and the last tab does a simple variance between the first two. This can help the developer debug the code, but the Excel formulas can also be used as an aid in communication with the business users. The next example is the security test spreadsheet. It uses conditional formatting with test-based styles to visually test the read-write access to the application. Black with no access simply means no access to that cell, but blue means read-only access and red means read-write access. The spreadsheet needs to be customized to the particular application it's testing and can be used for documentation. But the spreadsheet's also a great way to communicate to the business users since the color codes will always mean the same thing on any application. All of these are samples of standards and processes from real Hyperion Centers of Excellence. I picked them to try and show a variety of different places where a CoE may need to create and apply governance. I also hope that they illustrate some key takeaway points like CoEs need to enforce standards but maintain flexibility, and that they should always strive for continuous improvement. They also need to make sure that all of their projects are both feasible and supportable. Starting a Hyperion Center of Excellence can be challenging, and there are very few people with experience actually creating one. Luckily, ClearLine has a number of people with just that experience. We recommend that you have a plan and build a roadmap for your CoE. You should also consider starting small and growing your Center of Excellence over time. And make sure that you find somebody with both the Hyperion technical expertise and CoE development experience to help you create yours. Please contact the ClearLine group for more information.